Hello everybody, and welcome to the Arctic Reptile Ranch. You guys have met Beagle before. Right now, he's displaying what we call the elevator behavior. It's where they like to get high up on all fours and just be scratched and rubbed all over. This behavior is observed in the wild when small finches fly in front of these guys and dance around, at which point they raise up, the finches come in, pick off some of the ticks and other bugs and dead skin on the tortoises, and every now and then the tortoises will plop down on a finch and get themselves a nice little meaty meal. As you can see, he's not looking for a meaty meal. I can rub his belly all day long and it's just like rubbing the rest of his shell. You can see how gentle he is. He tolerates his head being scratched, his neck being scratched. I can get up under it inside of his shell, and he's pretty okay with all that. Now, you would never guess it, but this gentle tortoise has a much different side to him. A side that I was very, very shocked to see just over a week ago. Allow me to explain. This video is going to be a discussion on Galapagos behavior that went from interesting to alarming in a matter of 3 days. So, as you know from a previous video, I've upgraded the enclosure for Beagle and Fitz. Well, for the last 3.5 or 4 years, they've lived together. And from hatchling up until now, they've established a very particular social hierarchy. Before, there might be some pushing and shoving. Nothing I ever felt was dangerous or overly stressful between the two of them. A little over a week after putting them in the new enclosure, I noticed a behavior that I'd only ever seen in wild Galapagos tortoise videos. It's where two large Galapagos tortoises come close to each other and they tower their necks up and then they gape their mouths. Anybody that's ever watched National Geographic or Discovery Channel knows whichever tortoise gets the highest is the winner. The other one backs down and walks away, and the other tortoise is the winner. In these two clips, we can see some of the neck towering and mouth gaping behavior typical with Galapagos tortoises. Unfortunately, Beagle and Fitz don't watch the Discovery Channel. They went from the typical behavior of a visual display of dominance, and it turned into what I can only describe as all-out turtle war. Fitz and Beagle are rather evenly matched, so you can see here, instead of giving in like Galapagos tortoises normally do, Beagle decides that charging is the best option. In another escalation, the charging turned into biting. I noticed the behavior on a Thursday afternoon, and by Saturday, they were ramming each other, they were biting at each other's shell, they even managed to lock mouths biting at each other. The neck towering and mouth gaping behavior starts off relatively normal, but by the end of this clip, they're ramming each other face on. And as I'll explain, that can be very, very dangerous and destructive to a tortoise. In fact, when I went back to watch this footage, seeing this is what locked in my decision to separate these two. Having spoken to several very experienced Galapagos keepers and breeders is a bit unusual. I felt my best course of action was to separate them for the time being. I keep one over here in the new enclosure, and I put the other one back in the waterland tub. But what I've been doing is swapping them out every couple of days. It's kind of like a timeshare. So I've changed them from being roommates into close neighbors. In the future, I may try to put these guys back together. I won't do that on a permanent basis until I'm back down the lower 48 and I've built them an outside enclosure where they have adequate space to get away from each other. This is, as you saw from the previous video, a rather large enclosure, but compared to, say, half of the yard, it's not that big. Between now and then, I may put them back together for some supervised contact because I want to keep them familiar with one another because they will eventually be living together, I hope, once more. The potential damage they can cause each other by ramming each other, they can very easily disconnect some of the skins under here, and that's next to impossible to reattach. And when you do reattach it, there's a lot of surgery and a lot of stress involved. So a lot of times tortoises that get injured like that don't make it. So when the grown-ups are around, I'll put them back together, let them interact some because they are a very social species of tortoise, but I don't want to risk any permanent damage from anything that might happen when they're not being supervised by me. I mean, I work most of the day, so There's a lot of time when these guys are by themselves. If you enjoyed or found this video interesting, go ahead and give this video a like and share it with all of your friends. So until the next update from Alaska, thank you for visiting the Arctic Reptile Ranch.